Injustice, Gods Among Us. This game came out in 2013. And the idea of this sort of came about thanks to, in part to, the often frowned upon, but made officially canon part of the MK universe. Uh, MK versus DC, or DC versus MK, however you want to refer to it to. It is a fighting game featuring a cast of DC's heroes and villains. And the premise is simple. It's taking an axiom that the Joker sort of lives by. All it takes is one bad day. The story mode of this fighting game basically opens up, and I've got to say this before I even go into the story mode here now. DC endorsed this so much they even had a special comic series done for it. But this is how it works. The game's story mode opens up with Metropolis in ruins, utterly and completely destroyed. It was done by a nuclear bomb, one that the Joker had set, one that the Joker had cleverly linked the trigger to pulse rate of Lois Lane, who is at this time Superman's wife, who is at this time carrying their unborn child, who is at the moments prior to the explosion being fought by Superman, who is drugged and thinks she's Doomsday. And so, Superman has killed his wife, his unborn child, which has triggered a nuclear bomb to level Metropolis. This is in a world that is different from the DC universe that we know. The Joker is laughing hysterically. Batman is interrogating him, trying to find out where he got the bomb. And Superman comes in, full of rage, full of grief, full of anger. He kills the Joker. But regardless, the Joker has won. This begins the formation of, in that universe, the One Earth regime. Superman, with heroes that back his position, somewhat tired of fighting a never-ending battle, or with their own reasons. And the heroes that don't join him are either killed or forced to become part of his regime, or have gone into some sort of hiding. Batman, being the Batman he is, being the person he is, had something prepared. The problem is, in order to access it, he needs certain members of the Justice League to help open it. Those are either working with Superman or dead, or apparently dead. So, Batman, with his insurgency, manages to teleport certain heroes to the Injustice universe. Among the first being Batman, and unfortunately the Joker, as well as Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. Now, of course, they're a little lost being in this universe. What we find out is that Batman is considered, of course, one of the biggest enemies of the regime. So, the Batman from our universe, from the main DC universe that they tend to focus on, is captured. Joker slinking off to cause some chaos of his own. The other heroes are amazed at what they're finding out and what's going on, and end up having some strange encounters, including Hal Jordan, who is now in the Injustice universe a Yellow Lantern, fighting against Cyborg and Raven. Raven having given in to more her father's influence, and is actually helping the regime because it helps her father come to power faster. Oh boy. And they are currently I'd like to say interrogating, but it's more like torturing Deathstroke. We also learn, after the heroes meet up with the Injustice World's Batman, that the insurgency is trying to fight. But the only way to get at it is a weapon that Batman has, but he needs... Oh, I forgot Green Arrow. He got transported over too. Need to get him, or get into the Batcave to free up the item. As it turns out, the insurgency has a mole in Superman's group, that in the position of this universe's Lex Luthor, who unlike his main counterpart, he is Superman's friend, which is a nod back to some of the original origins for Lex Luthor, that he was a one-time friend of Superboy. He ended up well, depending on the source of everything, but and there are some people who, depending on the source you look at, Luthor will, quote, mourn Superman's passing. While they were enemies, even he has his limits to what he wants to see. However, this Luthor is trying to help everyone recover because Superman is, in this universe, the ultimate tyrant. He has become something I'm sure Lois would not love. That he has taken the extreme view that all criminals, no matter what their, how major or minor their crime is, they need to be dealt with harshly. Of course, Superman is not stupid either. He wants to get the regime ended. Well, not ended. He wants to get the insurgency ended. And so a plan has gone into effect. One team is to, quote, rescue Batman. The main universe Batman. One team is to take down the Watchtower. So as they do that, we have fight after fight. The plan is, Superman believes that by putting the regular universe Batman up for execution, it will bring the insurgency Batman out. And it does. But he's unaware of the mole in his group, and he's unaware of the plans to take down the Watchtower, which are successful. And of course, this angers Superman, but knowing that there's other universes out there that still have all these issues, he is going to invade them. That's his next step. It's at this point that Flash, who was part of the insurgents, who was part of the regime, decides it's time to turn, to get off this path and get on the right path. This is also after Billy Batson as Shazam is literally laser lobotomized. Well, let's face it, Superman just uses his heat vision to melt Batson's brain, thus killing Shazam. Because even Billy was starting to wise up on how crazy it is. Of course, our team of heroes ends up turning the tide, switching the course of war. This is also helped by one of Wonder Woman's foes, Ares, who understands that this regime does nothing for him. It's actually weakening him. And as it plays out, our universe's Batman can only think of, well, the main universe's Batman can only think of one individual who could bring the Injustice Superman to his knees. And that's the main DC Universe's Superman. So in the end, they bring him over. The two Supermen eventually fight it out. And they are, quote, defeated, and Superman is put into a prison, as well as those heroes that helped him, with the exception of certain ones who were, quote, not at the scene of the final defeat. And before the main Superman leaves the Injustice universe, he confesses that to the Injustice Batman that he's glad that there is someone like him now there to help put him in his place, should he ever take that path. We also see the Harley Quinn first a real serious breakaway from her devotion to the Joker. And we see a lot of other things in this timeline. I believe this is probably the best, one of the most interesting stories I have ever seen of DC Universe characters. And this game is full of choices that you can play in like a standard ladder fight. From, quote, heroes to villains. I mean, you got Superman, you got Batman, you have Wonder Woman, you have Green Lantern, you have Aquaman. Nightwing, who in this case was actually Damian Wayne. I believe some of the story behind that is that Damian took up the mantle because of his accidental part in the death of Dick Grayson. You have other characters. And you have villains. You have Lex Luthor. You have Catwoman. You have Solomon Grundy. You have a whole bunch of others. Killer Frost. And so they each, have their own story that can play out separate. I'll admit, one of the first ones I did a ladder mode on for this game was actually Raven. I like Raven. And each character has their own, quote, unique ending for the ladder mode. And they had 6 DLC characters for this game. You had Lobo, who was a force to be reckoned with. You had Zatanna. You had Batgirl. You had Zod. You had the Martian Manhunter. And as a slight throwback to, I guess, the MK versus DC Universe game, you had Scorpion show up. So each of these characters have their own ladder ending, and while they're separate from the main storyline, it is is quite interesting. And it was quite a fun game to play through, especially the story mode, because they had such well developed facts and stories for these characters. And that's all I'm going to say about Injustice 1. I invite you all to hunt it down and find it. You can find it on Steam, I know that. Or even read up on it and watch some videos on YouTube. Until next time, this is Rich Kale here on YouTube, Rich Genix elsewhere, inviting you to subscribe, and I hope you've enjoyed this little reminiscence about Injustice, Gods Among Us, released in April 2013. Bye!